Welcome to my Flower of Life circle. It's been a while. Haven't haven't wanted to speak about anything particular in in a while because a lot of things have been going on. But there's a lot of distress in the energy of this world right now. Um, and I think it calls for somebody to speak some truth. Hopefully, powers that be will come and help me speak their truth about everything that's happening. What I've learned in my lifetimes is that we are not in control. And in this delusion of reality that we live, because we think this is real, and it's just us learning lessons in a different kind of way. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people live in illusions that this is a solid ground. We all look like normal people. Like what is a person should look like. And we all have names, and we all have spiritual or religious or dogmatic belief systems, and and what happens in that situation is that we all are living in illusion, and we all have an opinion of that we can control our destinies, we can control this universe, we can control Mother Nature, we can control everything. And what is going to happen is that the fixed signs, some of us are fixed signs, are the teachers, because the first thing we had to learn was that we are not in control. I definitely am not in control. This last week showed me that no matter what happened, everything will happen in divine time. Period. End of story. No matter what you try to do, no matter what order you do it in, because how to say this? If it's not in the right order, they will deter you from and push you in the direction. I shouldn't say push, but kind of prod you into another direction so that you find an answer, which brings you back to your original question. And then you realize, I could have done this without doing this. So even in that way, God essentially is in control. So what should we make of what's happening now in this localized human experience, as we stand on a precipice of people with agendas that we cannot understand, or maybe we don't even want to understand, but we know it's not based in a good place. But it's not far away from the good place, because that, to say something is good or bad, right or wrong, is to make a judgment. And what the universe is trying to tell us is, look in your heart, look in your soul. Heart's in the heart space. The soul is in the solar plexus. The answers you seek are in those things. You already have the answers. And you already have an understanding of what and how you should approach things. Mainly, God wants you to know that you are beings of love and light. Period. End of story. And He wants you to remember that you are love and light. Oh, um, and that in the place of heaven, as some of us call it, God sees it as the true world, the true experience, the true essence of all that is. You know that everything is valuable, everything is loved, everything is honored. But don't you hate those buts? And it's not really a but. The but came from me, because that's how we think in this linear world, that there's a but. What it is that there's freedom of choice that we are given, freedom of paths to go down that we are given. We have devised all that is before we were born, before we came onto this planet, if you want to call it a planet, this ball of through the universe, if that's how you want to see it. It's an illusion. It was created to express time, because this is a finite world. And in reality, we come from an infinite world. And there is no time, there's just now. And there is no discord. There's an understanding of all the ways that things can be perceived. And there's not a right or wrong in the perception. What is in the essence of what God wants us to learn is that we are beings that can choose our path. And what is always hoped is that when you choose your path, you choose it for the greater good. That it's not wrong or right. It's what helps the greater good, the greater purpose, what helps us to understand the complexities of being a being of love and light, and non-judgmental, and to understand John what judgmental is what we do when we point fingers at other people. This is what you're doing. You're triggering me. Am I triggering you? Or am I showing you yourself? Or are you putting yourself as what you think I am? Do you put your mask on me? Or am I taking your mask off of you? These are the questions that are important. Is there going to be a war? Doesn't that depend on choices people make? Big, enormous choices. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It depends. It depends. This is a finite world. We don't stay here. War will help bring in the separation that these times are calling for. The breaking apart of being on one planet and creating two different planets, if you want to look at it in that terms, because that's your concept. A lot of people have been talking about the new Earth coming for a while, probably longer than we think, but in my time frame, a lot of it came out in different ages. In 1987, when they decided it was a time for the divine feminine coming, the precursor of the divine feminine, in the early 1990s, when they started projecting the difference between the two Earths, of a new dawn, of being in different dimensional beings. Because in this 3D world, we're very linear. We go from point A to point B. We think everything is a duality. It's either right or wrong. Well, it's not right or wrong. It's how you perceive it to be. If you perceive the truth to be a lie, that's your perception. If you perceive the lie to be the truth, I hope I said it backwards, that is your perception. If you think that all that is, that God in an infinite, merciful God, that we, a lot of us, I won't say most, a lot of religions specify a specific unified God as opposed to many gods. And then there's always other belief systems that worship God in different forms. So they actually believe in the one God, but to explain the complexity of a one God, they use many different God names, as in the Hindus and the Jains, and then you have the Buddhists, which said, let's not even discuss God. Let's discuss how do we become divine beings. Because they know in the end, when you are a divine being, you will be a part of God. Um, ooh. So the question, what has been happening on this earth is that there's too many people here. It's a finite earth. It's got finite ground. It's got finite space to put all these creatures. It's got a finite way to be preserved. You know, you bring wolves in to change the ecology because they keep the balance. There's not too many that are going to eat all the trees. There's not too many that are going to rob the water from the ground. So all this, when you're dealing in a finite place, these let's multiply, let's fill this earth with beings that should be compassionate to all their animals, but they displaced all the animals. They put them in extinction. What good is that? They changed the air. They changed the temperature. They changed everything about not keeping this in homeostasis. So we're leaving in mass. How do you rid the world of as many people as you need at one time? You create a pandemic. You create instability in the earth. You have weather problems. You have droughts and fires, and you create earthquakes and volcano eruptions, and the earth comes alive to take back its own sovereignty of this planet. And so, and some people see it as an advantageous thing to take over the earth globe, and their ego says, I'm gonna I don't know. I'm going to annihilate this people. I'm going to take over that. I'm going to destroy anybody else that keeps me from being the sovereign of the whole enchilada, the whole earth. That's what happens when you go into other people's countries with not good intentions. And I admit the United States is not exempt from that. A lot of the stuff they invented, shh, don't tell anybody. And they'll say I'm anti-American, but that's not true. I'm as patriotic as anybody. Well, I'm not really patriotic. I'm an earth being. I think when you see what we show you as the universe, what has been designed to show you the universe of the earth planet, is just show you that there are no demarcations, that it's all one planet. What did we accomplish by sending all the Mexicans back to Mexico instead of doing the farm work in America? We created an opportunity for Mexicans to create a better way of farming in small spaces, farming with less water, with less destruction, with no chemicals, so that we now need their food. When we closed the border to them, we lost our food supply. In data rub, open your eyes, people. We are one world. And you either are going to get along together or you're going to cause destruction. And that's where we're at. But the question is, what does God expect from this experiment? What is God giving us from this experiment? What is He showing us about ourselves and how to be a better being? How to be intra-dependent and interdependent, which is so not codependency. And that's where we've been stuck in this world. All our relationships are some kind of codependent, fear-based, that we have to please and we have to become whatever the mask of the day is to fit in, to succeed, to have family and friends. But when you're behind a mask, you will never have a family and a friend because they don't really know who you are, do they? So you can't become who you need to be unless you take off the damn mask. Unless you stop seeing not understanding that if you're not working together as one, you're not in rhythm with God. So if you are pointing fingers The first person to point at is you. The first liar you should point at is you. Because if you're not speaking your truth and you are not expressing your vulnerability and how you feel about things, that person doesn't really know you, do they? And they won't respect you, will they? Or how could they respect you? They don't know who you are. Respect is from showing people who you are and being compassionate and trying to understand. That was my lesson this last, I'd say, month and a half. Is trying to figure out when somebody triggers me, try to figure out what are they really saying and doing, and what aren't they telling me, and why aren't they telling me, and what are they holding back, and being, and looking at the world from their point of view. What are they trying to achieve in the relationship with you? And I don't care what level of the relationship, whether it's, selling my house, somebody's buying it, the relationship between us. If we understand that we each are getting a benefit from doing these things, we each get a benefit. And so you have to step back and say, okay, I see why they did that. I hear what they're saying. And okay, I see their point of view. Yes, they can't promote me because they're on their own. They're busy promoting themselves. But aren't I promoting myself? So when you understand that, when you don't have a judgment about anybody, I mean, you might, if you're frustrated, you might or you learn to just go in and try to be and try to understand. Everybody has a different perspective because they're standing in a different light. They have a different agenda. But having an agenda doesn't make it good or bad, right or wrong. So what I do know is God is not going to let, I should say, what God always says, you are loved and protected. Release unto me. Release unto me how the outcome is going to be. It is not saying you sit back and don't live a life. You sit back and you learn from each nuance of how you reacted. And does it put you in a good place, or does it make you compassionate to others and see their point of view? As long as you can see somebody else's point of view, you're on the right track. But when you put blinders on so you can't see anybody else's point of view, when you talk about opinion as opposed to truth, truth and opinion are not the same thing. People use opinion to say, I can get away with shit. I can lie to myself. I can lie to others. Because silly. That's so silly. You can't fool God. You cannot fool God. He sees right through you. And he still cheers you on. He still hopes that you will see the light. He still hopes that you will go past the darkness. He still hopes that you will change your path if you've gone off your path, that you'll get back on your path. That's all God wants you to do. Walk your path. Learn your lessons. And come back with knowledge of how to be a divine being in times of stress, in times of turmoil, in times of destruction. That's what we're here to learn. How can I be a pure spirit? And I'm not talking Pollyanna shit, as one of my friends would say. She knows who she is. You will get at a point where you are not judging somebody else's path. But you know if they went off the grid, because at any time you can change your path. Because when you divine your path, it can be a mixture of good and bad, as we say, to coin it. And it's you ultimately deciding, do I value myself? It's all about value. If you don't value yourself, if you don't love yourself, you can't truly value and love anybody else. It'll be a little askewed, a little dysfunctional, no matter how much love is there. And thank you for listening. And peace. May peace prevail on earth.